So how did Barack Obama put together this win, and what challenges does he face as he takes office? Insight Chanel Jackson is with VCU political science professor William Newman.
Today we have with us William Newman. He is a political science professor of the L. Douglas Wilder School of Government and Public Affairs. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Let's just start off with the election results. What is your evaluation of Obama being so successful in becoming president?
His election results were just phenomenal. He did a lot better than I think a lot of people thought. Given the math of the Electoral College, Obama had already made it pretty clear he was going to switch Iowa and New Hampshire and New Mexico and Colorado from 2004. And with just those four states and everything else that John Kerry won in 2004, that would give him 273 electoral votes. So it was almost impossible for McCain to actually win unless he had taken Pennsylvania. But for Obama to then go ahead and win Virginia and Indiana, those states which were surprises, and maybe North Carolina and Missouri as well, that's very big. And people start to think that this is an earthquake election in the sense that it starts to change things permanently in the Electoral College for maybe 2 or 3 electoral cycles.
And as far as Virginia, how do you think Obama connected with Virginia voters?
I think Virginia was like a lot of states in that he got the youth vote out in a very, very big way. And Virginia has a lot of college campuses, and Obama's lead in that was somewhere close to 70% to 30% over McCain among voters about 18 to 29. And that was big. I think that was a huge Obama vote. And also Virginia demographically is changing to a large extent. The counties up around DC, those were heavy Obama counties. And that, plus some surprises. Winning Henrico County was, I think, a big surprise. Demographically, there's enough change that Virginia's a state more like Florida, in that it's got the traditional South, but it's also got the new South, and also has a lot of people from other parts of the country.
So I guess, why do you think McCain fell short, other than the youth voters and the different demographics? Why do you think he fell short?
There's a lot of theories about that, and that's what people are going to debate for the next 4 years. I mean, the easiest one is to simply say that traditionally you have an economic state of affairs right at the time the election is coming up. And if the economy is good, the party in power stays in power. If the economy is bad, the party in power loses. And when you have collapse of the stock market and massive economic crisis, you start to say, well, it's a surprise that McCain did as well as he did. On the other hand, I've talking to a lot of students and a lot of other people just about the election. Over the past 3 weeks, McCain's message has been, Barack Obama is dangerous. He's risky. Be afraid. And that's maybe one part of it. Here's why you shouldn't vote for him. But then the message of why you should vote for John McCain, where is that? And in terms of strategy, that may have been one of his biggest problems, is that, okay, I don't vote for this other guy, but maybe I don't vote at all. Why should I vote for you? And he never really answered that question.
Obama's going to face many challenges, of course. I guess, do you think he's going to keep up on his promises that he's made during the campaign, or do you think it's going to change? I guess, what's your take on that?
He's got to refine the promises a little bit. Right now, with the economy the way it is, even discounting the bailout, taking all that $700 billion and putting that aside, the projected deficit for this year is going to be $700 billion alone, which will be a record for a year. And that suggests that putting a lot of money in terms of infrastructure spending, a lot of money in terms of massive healthcare reform, he's got to go a lot slower, and he's got to deal with essentially the emergency of the crisis, and then long-term issues, he's got to deal with that a little bit later. So he's got to shift his priorities a little bit, and how he finesses that in terms of, I'm not breaking a promise, I'm just dealing with realities, is to a large extent going to tell you whether he's going to be successful over the next couple of years and whether he faces a big turnaround at the midterm elections.
I guess, how many months or years do you think Obama can actually start bringing the change? Just because we're in a crisis economically and things like that?
Yeah, some of the things he's going to have to deal with right away. I think if he doesn't do something very, very big and demonstrative, and not necessarily something that costs a whole lot of money, but something that's high profile related to energy and related to climate change, he's going to be in some deep trouble. Because voters are demanding something related to that, the rise in gasoline prices, even though they've dropped down, but the issue of climate change, which both Obama and McCain were considering to be a major issue. Voters clearly want something done with that, and they're kind of related. Some of the other things in terms of the economy, in terms of home ownership, are also in the crisis category, he's got to deal with those right away. Healthcare may be put on the back burner to a certain extent. He may be able to do more incremental adjustments at first and then look for something that's more significant further on down the road.
And I guess Democrats have made a very big successful gain in the Senate and the House. I guess for Mark Warner, how do you think the relationships are going to change with VCU as well as Virginia, just because he has become Senate?
I don't know how many ties that Warner has with the state. We know as a big proponent of higher education as well, there may be more higher education funding coming from the United States government if Warner can get in there and be very, very active. And Warner's a pretty active person. He's also kind of different from a lot of senators in that he is considered looking at high technology. That aspect of it, given his background in telecommunications, and also Warner, I mean, to be honest, is positioning himself for a presidential run at some point in the future as well. So he's high profile, and if people in the Senate know that you're someone who may be president someday, they treat you a little bit differently. You get some deference, even though you're essentially a rookie coming in there. I think he's going to be a pretty important senator.
Well, I thank you for joining us. And once again, we have with us political professor William Newman, and he is actually in the L. Douglas School of Government and Political Affairs.